back to the channel. Today is a bit of a talking head slash explanation video. Ever since I've been getting into YouTube and watching other tech tubers and other videos, I've noticed that a lot of people since the rise and launch really have been getting the names of the different AMD Wraith Coolers mixed up. They're like, oh, is this the Spire, is this the Stealth, is this that or the other. So I thought today I'll just go through the range, including one that's no longer available, just in case you come across it on the second-hand market, so that you know when you're looking at them which cooler it is, which CPU it's suitable for. I've actually got here printed off the up-to-date list of bundled thermal solutions telling you what cooler would be bundled with which CPU when you buy them. There are 3 CPUs that aren't on this list, and they're the top end of the new 5000 series, so that's the 5800, the X, and the 5950 and the X. They're not listed because they always come just CPU only, because AMD believes that you'll put your own cooling solution with those high-end CPUs. Realistically, these, even the biggest cooler would not really be able to handle a cooling solution for that top-end CPU. If you overclock it, it's just going to run too hot, and this cooler wouldn't handle it. So AMD believe that you would almost certainly be putting an aftermarket cooling solution on their high-end CPUs. But I digress. We'll carry on. So we have the Wraith Stealth, the Wraith Spire, the Wraith Max, which is one that's not available anymore. I'll explain why. And then the Wraith Prism. Now the Max and the Prism both have RGB and use the pre-fitted clips on the motherboard as you buy it. As the old style, clip over either side, swing a lever to lock it down. The Stealth and the Spire actually require you to remove those clips from the motherboard, because these actually screw down to the 4 points in the back plate that comes with the motherboard. So the clips come off and the screws, put them in your motherboard box, don't lose them, and then you get either one of these two and you actually screw it down into that back plate. I'll open the Stealth up first. Like I say, these are all new apart from the Max, because you can't buy that new. So I acquired one second hand and just cleaned it up. So as you can see, I don't know how well it's picking it up. This is actually quite a short fin stack. It's probably only an inch at the most on the fin stack. This is the latest generation of Stealths. So on the early ones, the cold plate in the middle of the fin stack was actually circular, and it had a circular pre-applied thermal paste patch. On the new ones, they have a larger square cold plate section in the middle of the fin stack, and it's a large square patch of thermal transfer paste, which actually covers more of the integrated heat spreader on your CPU, so it makes more contact with the CPU with thermal paste for heat transfer from the CPU into the fin stack, and then being dissipated by the large fan on top of the heatsink. So that's the Stealth. So as you can see, sits quite short. In opposition to a Spire, which exactly the same design, except as you can see, quite substantially taller. It's at least 1.5 inches to an inch and 3/4 of fin stack height. Same fan on the top, exactly the same fan, same braided cable. This is an earlier one of the Spires, which actually has a solid copper core plug. The newer versions just use a solid aluminium block, same as the Stealth. Both capable of cooling pretty much anything up to a 5600. In fact, just to give you an idea, the Stealth cooler, which is this one, would currently get bundled with a Ryzen 3 1200, a 1300X, a 2200G, a 3100, a 3200G, and a 3300X, and a Ryzen 5 1400. Whereas the Wraith Spire, now there are two versions of this, one with an LED ring that's programmable and one without. This happens to be one without, but the actual thermal solution of what they'll call is exactly the same. The only difference is one's got a bit of RGB that you can program via your motherboard. So these cool, and it's a large list of CPUs. 2400G, 2600, 3600, 5600G, 5600X, 5700G, 1500X, 1600, 2600X, 3400G, and a 3600X. So there's actually quite a large range of CPUs that this either RGB version or non-RGB version would get bundled with. Now all of the CPUs, pretty much I think all of the CPUs that I've mentioned have a max TDP of 65 watts, with I think some of the higher ends like the 5700G have a TJ max of about 95 watts, but I believe the Stealth is capable of cooling up to 120 watts, and I think the Spire is capable of cooling up to 150 watts. So plenty of cooling headroom within even the Spire for all of those CPUs. Now, but obviously bear in mind the Spire, I mean I've seen 5700Gs packed with one of these on a system. So just because it would normally be bundled with one of these, if you buy the CPU as what they call an OEM CPU, so it's CPU only, bundled with no cooler, just comes in a box, no cooler. I have seen systems with a 5700G, which is I think it's the top CPU with integrated graphics, and that's an 8-core 16 thread with Vega 8 graphics, bundled with a Spire, and it still keeps it cool. Sorry, bundled with a Stealth, but it still keeps it cool. So that is the two non-RGBs. Like I say non-RGB, but there is a version of the Spire that comes with an LED ring. This I know because I actually happen to have one on my machine. And I'm running a 1600, which it wasn't actually meant to come with the RGB version. I think it was mispacked when it was packed at the factory, and I think I just, when I bought mine, I think I just got lucky and managed to get one that came with an RGB ring. The RGB ring version does actually come with a small cable that plugs into the back of the ring, the fan assembly, and plugs into the USB, so you can control it via your motherboard using any of the various RGB control softwares on the market, be it MSI, Corsair, AuraSync, or any of those cooling RGB software control solutions will control the RGB on these coolers. So that's the two non-RGB aluminium fin stack coolers covered. So we'll put them to one side. Then we come to the two big boys. So we have the Max and the Prism. We'll look at the Max first, and then once we look to the Prism, I can show you the comparison side by side. So the Max, as you can see, has a big, beefy aluminium heatsink block, heatsink on it, easily a couple of inches thick in a stepped pattern. Big, beefy fan on it. Now the Max actually has an RGB ring around the inside here, just at the edge of the blaze, and then another RGB ring around the outside on the top, and the AMD logo is not RGB on this particular version. Okay, we have copper heat pipes coming up from the cold plate. We have a solid copper cold plate on the bottom. The heat pipes actually are attached to the top of that cold plate, so it comes from the CPU to the cold plate to the heat pipes up into the fin stack. Nice big aluminium fin stack, and then the blower just blows all the heat away, obviously hopefully to get sucked out of the system by your exhaust fan located in the CPU. As for attachment to your motherboard, as I said earlier, these particular ones use the twin hold down method. So you clip that over one hook, the other one over the other hook, rotate the bar, and it locks it in place. These would obviously also have come with a pre-applied thermal paste, but obviously this is the second hand one that I've managed to pick up, so no thermal paste on it. I've actually given it a bit of a clean up. Now it does come with this has got two little rubber plugs in it. One is for a lead, which I don't have for this particular cooler, to plug onto here and to plug onto the USB on your motherboard to control via software within your system. Or the other one is a lead that would plug onto an ARGB header. So I believe this would plug onto a 5-volt 3-pin ARGB header. I don't think it's the 4-pin 12-volt. I believe this is the 3-pin 12-volt, 3-pin 5-volt. So depending on which control solution you're using, you would take your rubber cover off, plug in your lead here, and then feed it to the relevant port on the motherboard. So that is the Max. Now these would have been supplied with the higher end, so the X900 of whatever series, so be it the 1900X, the 2900X, the 3900s, 3950s. The largest one that this would have probably come with would have been, in fact, I don't believe they made these past 2nd gen, so it would have been the top of the line 2000 series Ryzen CPUs was what this would have probably been bundled with. Like I say, because there's nothing on the AMD website to tell you what this would have come with, I'm not entirely sure, so don't take my word as gospel on that, but that's what I believe this would have been bundled with. So now we move on to the biggest one that they make, short of a Threadripper cooler, and this is the Wraith Prism. So, as you can see, similar cooling design to the Max, as in height of the aluminium fin stack, big blower cooler on top. Difference being with this one, as well as the RGB rings around the edge, the AMD logo is RGB, and they also have RGB within the blade setup on the cooler as well. So you've got AMD logo RGB, 2 RGB rings and RGB blades, so really colourful. This one, like the Max, comes with 2 different rubber covers depending on your connectivity solution, be it through ARGB or through USB. They also have a high-low fan speed switch, so if you're using it on a top-end CPU, say like a 5900, you really don't want it fan to be dropping down low because you'll increase the CPU heat, so you flick it to max. If you're using it on a lower end CPU, say something like a 2700X, where the CPU is actually overkill for that overkill for that CPU, you'll probably switch it down to the low speed. It's energy saving. You've still got your RGB, you've still got a nice big cooler. It's going to run your CPU nice and cool, even if you overclock it. Cold plate wise, whereas the Max had a solid plate and the heat pipes were connected to the back side of that cold plate, with the Max the heat pipes are actually part of the cold plate, and it's a bigger copper plate. As you can see, it's got pre-applied thermal paste on there because this is a brand new one. So the 4 heat pipes that come down are actually ground flat to be part of the cold plate. So the heat pipes are making direct contact with the CPU heat spreader, which makes it more efficient at drawing the heat away from the CPU to keep it cool when you're overclocking or just really pushing the CPU during intensive use. Same fitting, just the 2 clips over, and all the coolers are using this black braiding over the cables to the 4-pin plug for the motherboard. So there we have it. Now, as you can see, this one is new. That's the 2 plugs. So we've got one going to, it's actually a 4-pin RGB header. My mistake. So this uses 4-pin RGB, 12 volt, or you have the USB option. So that's the 2 different cables that come supplied with the cooler. So there we have it. Hopefully this video has been informative, and you'll know what you're looking at next time. Like I say, what I'll probably do is I will put a link to this bundled thermal solution from AMD. I'll put a link to this web page in the description below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Really helps the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Let you know when the next video goes up. Hopefully they'll be a bit more regular now. As always, we'll see you in the next one.